Welcome into the Sources Say podcast, your go-to Kentucky basketball podcast on the KSR Podcast Network, presented by our friends at BetMGM. I'm your host, Jack Pilgrim of Kentucky Sports Radio. Very excited to be joined once again by the guy who can't get rid of me, whether he likes it or not, buddy. I'm going to be in your life, in your car, somewhere, somehow. I'm going to be around you, Zach. So I'm sorry for making you do this, but you know what? Suck it up.
Yeah, you're like my fill-in fiance for the last week at this point. I've seen you more than I've seen her, and that's probably going to continue actually over the next week as well. So, but we had a great time down there in Peach Jam, and then yesterday as well out there. Well, we had a good time enjoying each other's company at Freedom Hall yesterday. The outcome of the game was not exactly what we were hoping for, but yeah, we spent, what was it, 5 days? We got there Wednesday afternoon, left Sunday morning. It's left Sunday afternoon, so we were in North Augusta for 5 full days essentially. But we had a blast watching all the players, all the recruits, Kentucky Targets, Caden Daughtry in particular. We'll cover it all here over the next hour plus, I'm sure.
Yeah, so I wanted to get your take because it's been a minute since you've been in the chaos of Peach Jam. You know, so last year was the birth of my second son, and I was there for 24 hours before Mark Pope sent my ass home, and it was just a chaotic mess that forced Jacob Polachek to drive home by himself, and it was sad. Like, it was just a really wild whole ordeal. So glad that we made it through a full Peach Jam first and foremost, and then the year before that, I lost my grandmother like 40 minutes out of North Augusta. Learned, I got a phone call that she had passed. So like that just definitely put a damper on the rest of the week that is supposed to be fun and networking and, talking to all these future Kentucky Wildcats. Like, and that was Mark Pope's very first Peach Jam. So that was like a really exciting time. Like, how's he going to do all this? And it just kind of big old, dark cloud got put over me. So it's been a minute since I've had my own fun, just thorough experience, and guess what, we got all the way through it without any hiccups, and I'm very excited for it. But it's been a minute since you got the full Peach Jam experience. So what were your, just in terms of the hustle and bustle and the chaos of it all and the coaches, and what were your big picture takeaways from what you saw being in the mix?
Oh, I'm a big fan of that event. Like you said, the last time I was down there was the year prior to what you just talked about. So that was when we sat behind LeBron James to watch Chris Paul coach Rob Dillingham versus I forget exactly. Oh, Bronny James. That's who he was playing. Yeah. So that was a whole thing itself. And I guess that was 3 summers ago now. But so I did Rock Hill the last 2 years. Me and Brandon Ramsey were down there for the Adidas events. But so there was some employee movement within the KSR world over the last month that moved me from Adidas to joining Jack Pilgrim down there in North Augusta at the Riverview Park Athletic Center, I think is what it's called.
Activity Center.
And boy, that place is massive. They kind of sardine you in there for sure. Half the gym is freezing cold. The other half of the gym is burning hot. The AC doesn't work. Like it is just kind of a cluster all in there, but it is so much fun just being able to watch all, especially the EYBL circuit this summer felt like it really had all the star power, at least compared to Adidas. Adidas still had some good players out there, but it really felt like all the top players in the class, minus guys that didn't play, like CJ Rosser. Who was the other main guy that didn't play?
King Gibson, because Team United got eliminated. They just said, you know what, we're gonna punt on this live period.
So we got to watch. I mean, I'd say most of the top 25, 30 kids in the country were at this EYBL event down there for Peach Jam. And it was awesome, especially once the college coaches got in there on, I guess it was Thursday morning. And then they were able to stay. So we had plenty of eyes on Mark Pope, Mo Williams, Cody Feger. It was pretty much the Mo Williams show, at least from Kentucky's perspective, throughout the whole week. So, I mean, if you want to ask me my biggest takeaway from the whole event is like, these kids love them some Mo Williams. There was only maybe a handful of kids said that Cody Feger was their main contact. You said go Big Blue to me. Oh yeah, shout out to Kenny Hart. I'm sure I
know exactly who Kenny Hart is. We saw you guys at the very exit on our way out. So shout out to you guys.
Yeah, shout out to them. We saw plenty of Kentucky fans. I actually got to chatting with a good amount while we were down there, but all these high school recruits love Mo Williams. That's who their main contact is. I just wrote an article about Navarro Bowman where he said that the reason he played so well at Team USA was he got like some good coaching advice from Mo Williams, who's been a gold medalist, who kind of taken that route before. And he's like, he kind of gave me some pointers of like how to interact with coaches and everything. And it really helped me in the training camp to be able to land my spot. He played really well at the Team USA, helped them win gold. And then Mo Williams finally offered him about 2 weeks ago, I guess it was. But just all of these high school kids, 27, 28, 29, like even JJ Crawford, who we were talking to, they all are talking with Mo Williams. So we heard about the whole closer mentality with Mo Williams, with Ryan Hampton off the bat, and then Rod Hampton calling him the closer and all that. That's carried over, at least in terms of how the impact he's having on the recruiting trail for Kentucky, because it's very obvious that he's the shark out there. He's the guy that's doing a big chunk of the recruiting right now. Along with, I'm sure all the on-court stuff is great as well, but his role as a recruiter has really stood out. And I think that's, if we're just taking like a really looking back view, like a 30,000 foot view, I think that's probably my biggest takeaway from the event as a whole is just Mo Williams continues to kill it as a recruiter. And I enjoyed all our dinners together, Jack, just you and me hanging out. We got to hang out with Brandon Ramsey, some kid named Jacob P. I forget his last name entirely. He works for some other website right now.
Punk. That's the P.
Yeah, Polecat is what I think some people refer to him. Polcard is, I guess, what he has to go by now. But we had a great time down there, enjoying ourselves, staying in gyms 12 hours, having some dinner, and then going home and doing it all again the next day. So it was a lot of fun. But yeah, those are just kind of my quick hitters before we dive into the meat and potatoes of what happened.
And I guess if you want to jump straight into the the live period and the coaches lingering and going from court to court, I'd say the biggest takeaway from me once we got to the live period, obviously Caden Daughtry is the biggest takeaway. We'll talk about him in a second in terms of what we actually saw with him. But I would say walking into the gym at 8 a.m., 9 a.m., whatever it was, on Thursday to start the live period and only seeing Cody Feger there for Kentucky and going, well, Pope has to be around here somewhere because Kentucky had like 20 offers in North Augusta. So that was the premier event for Kentucky targets. And you were just looking around going, where the heck is Pope? Like he's got to be around here somewhere. And then you hear through the grapevine that he did not go to Peach Jam on day one. He wanted to make a little statement for himself by going in to Bryan, Texas for the Puma Pro 16 event to go see one Reese Alston, a 5-star point guard down there in Texas. So, playing on the Puma circuit. So that was probably the biggest takeaway in terms of, okay, that's a statement. Like whether it matters how much the evaluation these coaches are actually doing sitting courtside for these events, 95% of it is just to have the stupid logo sitting in front of your game to say, have me, a media member, or whatever fan, parent, whatever, to be able to look courtside and go, this coach is watching this player at this time. Mm-hmm. Kentucky was 4 deep for this kid. It was a statement to me when, Caden Daughtry's playing and Jay Lucas is sitting there with his 2 lead assistants and his GM at the very end seat, right smack dab in the middle of midcourt for every single one of Caden Daughtry's games. That tells me that that's our top priority, and we're going to go figure out a way to land that kid. So when you get little kind of nuggets and crumbs like that, it definitely jumps off the page. And for Pope to go out of his way on day one to not go to the event that everybody's at and all of his top targets are at, and Dawson Battier is the only other Puma target that is competed this past weekend down at Puma. It was the Reese Alston show entirely. So what did that mean to you to see Pope go down there with Mikhail McLean to start the event? He's only there for 1 day, but was there the full day and then made his trip over to North Augusta, stayed there the full Friday, and then Saturday morning hung around for 2 game sets and then made the drive over to Rock Hill to wrap up the live period at 3SSB. But hit all of the major ones, but to start with Reese Alston, I think says something.
Yeah, it's definitely notable, especially with the point guard class, or the group of point guards in this class definitely seems to be the headliner of it. I think you got 5 or 6 guys ranked in the top 20, top 25 in the class that are all point guards. Kentucky's offered, I think, all of those guys. I can try and look through them real quick here. You got Beckham Black, Nas Anderson, Reese Alston, Caden Daughtry, go on the line to Navarro Bowman, Jalen Davis. Did they offer Jalen Davis? I feel like they did recently. Maybe not on him.
I don't believe so.
And then even Jackson Davis. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Jackson Davis down the line there.
Jackson's the one.
So to start by going out to see, Skip to my loose kid out there in Texas was definitely notable. And to do it with Coach McLean, who I believe McLean played at the same high school that Reese Alston currently plays at, Second
Correct.
Baptist, around in Houston. So there's a big connection there. I don't
And
know
Mark
if I ever
Pope played NBA with the Milwaukee Bucks with Skip to my Lou.
There you go, another
For
connection right there. So
multiple years.
that's definitely notable. Like that's not no small thing. It feels like to be able to do that first, it definitely feels like they're making him a big priority. And it's oddly enough, Wichita State is a big team that's poking around with him, along with some other schools as well. I know that there's a connection with Wichita State. I think like his AAU coach is maybe like an assistant on there, or the AAU program director for his team as an assistant coach at Wichita State, something like that. But there's some other big name schools in there as well. Louisville's in there, as Jacob
LSU
Polachek
is
knows.
the big one to watch. They're the ones that are wanting to throw big time money at one Skip to my Lou son.
Yeah. So it's of all the point guards that are in this class, it's definitely notable that it seems like Mark Pope, that's the guy he wants. Even though they did still, they still scouted Caden Daughtry and Beckham Black. They were watching all those games as well, but it definitely feels like Reese Alston is probably number one on their point guard big board, someone they'd like to pair with Ryan Hampton.
And I'd say just in terms of the point guard class, and we'll transition into what we actually saw from, in my opinion, 1A, 1B of Beckham Black and Caden Daughtry at Peach Jam, that I think Pope has identified this top group of point guards as, I don't really care which one we get. I like all of them. All of them can contribute immediately at this level. And because it is it's a weak class, generally speaking. But
Chase Lumpkin's in there too, by the way.
But if you're going to invest in in a position, the point guard position is a really, really strong one where there's a ton of depth and a ton of talent where you can kind of just take best player available when you're in Mark Pope's shoes to take so stupid to take the guy.
You're on KS board too much.
To take the guy that you have the most traction with. A lot of it is going to be decision timelines. And, my understanding is part of their push is the fact that Reese Alston's wanting to decide early. He's going to be like an October commit. So why not prioritize him now and then wait for the guys? Caden Daughtry told us that he's in no rush. He's going to try to decide as late as possible. So, stuff like that where if there's no real pressure to go make your move for a Caden Daughtry right now or a Beckham Black right now if Reese is the first to bat. So go prioritize the guy that you like. And if you miss on him, my understanding is that they're not going to go into a bidding war. Like they feel confident enough in all of the guys that they're not going to just go crazy for one of them, knowing that, every program is going to need a high profile point guard. So one of them is going to fall in their laps. They're going to find the best value and, make sure the fit is correct. But they won't if Reese Alston becomes a $5 million player and LSU tries to make a statement with Will Wade, they're not going to participate in that. But if the value is still where it needs to be and it's an appropriate, value versus anticipated production, like I think Kentucky's right in there. Like, with the connections with Pope and connections with Mikhail McLean, they are positioned very, very well to make a move. And I wouldn't say that they're a favorite right now to, close the deal. I do think that there's a little bit of courting on both sides to see how these next couple of months are going to go, but that he's going to get a visit. Like Kentucky, he's definitely among the top priorities in the class. And I do think that it did mean something for Mark Pope to go visit on day one. So that was a fun little nugget, but man, nothing mattered more in North Augusta than Caden Daughtry, man. Like that's one that Zach will be talking about in 10 years when he becomes the next Trae Young in the NBA, the next, Jalen Brunson, the undersized guard who just freaking finds ways to win basketball games, man. Caden Daughtry belongs in that conversation. If you had any doubts about him being a 6 foot, 160-pound point guard going into Peach Jam, he was still leading the circuit and scoring and doing it efficiently. But it was like, okay, what happens when the competition is at its absolute peak and tensions are high and the stage is as big as it gets and you have college coaches sitting courtside? How do you respond then? Well, Caden just goes and has the most efficient and productive AAU championship run in the history of grassroots basketball. Like, I mean, that dude put on an absolute show. There was like this aura and mystique around Caden Daughtry games that even Beckham Black, who I think is a better all-around player and I think projects probably better in the NBA, like there were more people and fans, casual fans, watching the Caden Daughtry show than showing up to see Beckham Black there by the very end. So it was just cool to be a part of that event, and he, goodness gracious, absolutely, positively lived up to the hype.
Yeah, it was one of those things you started to hear about as the week kind of went along. It's like, Caden Daughtry's still scoring 30 points a game every time. And, he's got his team of, they have he has some good teammates, but not like, any other like superstars next to him. It was a lot of just like good team basketball. Like, Jack, and you kept thinking like, okay, it's eventually the numbers are going to fall. Like he's going to have an off game, and it just never happened. He just kept scoring. He kept passing, he kept rebounding, he kept playing solid defense. He's got a little bit of that he does a little bit of the flailing stuff, like he does the whole type thing whenever he gets fouled on threes and everything like that. But all that tells me is the kid watches a lot of basketball and he's a smart basketball player. I see the Trae Young comparisons absolutely because of the size and the shooting ability. Trae's probably a better passer at that age. Caden is definitely a better athlete though. I mean,
and definitely a better defender. He's not a turd. I think that was probably the biggest takeaway for me is that he wasn't a one end of the court player. Like he was getting after it defensively, trying to jump passing lanes and, fighting through screens. Like you can tell he had that want to on the defensive end that a lot of guards, if they're going out and scoring 30 points a game, they're like, screw it. I don't need to defend. So I did appreciate that probably even more so than all the scoring production that he had.
Yeah. Definitely got it. I mean, if the kid was 6'3", this wouldn't even be a debate. He'd be the number one player in the country, and I don't think it would be particularly close. I mean, we were talking about it going into the actual tournament bracket, and we were like, look at these shooting splits. Like, this is kind of crazy. And then I'm looking at him right now. He nearly went 60, 50, 90 on shooting splits, and he averaged 32.3 points a game. He had 32.3 points a game. 4.9 rebounds, 6.1 assists, 2.9 steals, and the number I really liked, only 2 turnovers a game. So to have all this high usage, and I will say it felt like in the first half of his games, he would kind of lay back a little bit, and in the second half is when he really started to take over. But boy, once he took over, like he shot 58.6% from the field, 48.8% from three on 5 attempts per game, 91.4% from the free throw lines. So he was just a shade under 60, 50, 90. Like we talk about in the NBA, 50, 40, 90 is like Ainsley Almanor is one of like 2 Kentucky players in history to get 50, 40, 90. And he was, just kind of a guy that sat in the corner and shot threes. Caden Daughtry is doing this on high usage as the number one guy, as the number one overall guy at Peach Jam. It was just truly impressive to watch. Like he has a rainbow 3-pointer that, which game was it where we watched where he hit the game winner? Who was he playing? Or not the game winner, where they ended up losing. That was the game against Troy Faison, who was
in the Rams,
number. Yeah. It
triple overtime game, 41.
Yeah. That game was amazing. Troy Faison Jr., this kind of like unknown guy who's I think now has came into Peach Jam with 0 offers. I think he left with like upwards of 10. I think
unranked,
he dropped,
not even a recruiting profile.
I made the profile for him on 3. So if you go look at his profile, it's because I made it 3 days ago because he didn't have one. He went toe to toe with Caden Daughtry, and they ended up getting the win. But yeah, Caden Daughtry had a fadeaway going out of bounds 3-pointer at the end of I believe the first overtime that bounced. They did the Patrick Sparks. It bounced off the rim 100 times before it went in. Yeah, like I said, he shoots these rainbow buckets. Once this kid turns the corner, you're just toast. Like he's just so quick. Once he gets into the lane there, he's got he can do the Euro step. He's just so crafty when he gets the ball in his hands. Really good at drawing fouls. Like I said, it exaggerates stuff a little bit, but that's today's basketball, man. If you want to be one of these superstars, you got to kind of play the game a little bit. Especially at his size. He was especially, and that's a great point about it too. Like, don't just let yourself get bullied. Like because you're 6 foot tall, you're probably going to fall down a little bit for. So, earn the fouls that you've earned. Make sure that the refs are going to give them to you. So, but his worst game was a 19-point, 10 assist game. And that was in the semifinals against CP3, and then they had that epic. Well, it wasn't necessarily epic, but Drive Nation was that team made up of 6 players, all mid-major guys after Marcus Spears left to reclass and go to Texas. They had 6 guys on the roster. Every time we were looking at them warming up or like about to take the starting lineup, they only had 1 guy on the bench. You're like, how is this team still in the championship? And they just ran out of gas towards the end there. So, but Drive Nation, I'm sure a lot of those kids did great for their stock. But in the end, it was just Caden Daughtry was just too good, man. He had 33 points, 9 boards, 6 assists in that championship game. They never
turnover.
1 turnover. That was really the craziest part.
So stupid.
They made up an award for him. EYBL, it was in his 30th year. They never once gave a Peach Jam MVP. They gave it to him this year. They were like, okay, we just have to
before the championship game
before
even
the championship
started. They were just like,
they said, you're the EYBL MVP. It doesn't matter what happens in this game. You're amazing. And then he went out there and backed it up and shot 9 of 16 from the field and was just an absolute dog out there. Just a tough shot maker. Really was. I mean, I can't tell you how many journalists I saw on Twitter say, I've been doing this for 20 plus years. I've never seen anyone on a run like this. Like, it was just a 7-game run, legendary type thing that we'll just kind of remember forever. Gym's packed all to watch this, this kid that's literally the same size as I am, 6 foot, whatever. Like, it was awesome to watch. And Kentucky was there to watch a lot of his games, Mo Williams in particular was there to watch some of those games. So we'll see if, they're actually in the mix for it. But I'd say a lot more teams are going to be upping the pressure on him as the next few months go along with him, because he was truly special. It's really hard. I mean, we could sit here and do the whole podcast on just game by game of how awesome he was, but it truly was a spectacle to watch.
Yeah, the irony of it is Iowa has been around forever with him, and like they were it's a Tyler Ulis recruitment all over again. Like Iowa, the odds-on favorite, they prioritized him. They had the family connection. Like they identified this kid super early, identified him and got him on campus, like made sure that this kid knew that he was their number 1 priority. Michigan started sneaking and kind of sniffing around there. Dusty May left, and it was kind of like, maybe Iowa's going to pull this thing off. And then he just skyrockets into superstardom and becomes what we saw at Peach Jam. And then it's, every big, blue blood, superstar program is sitting courtside for him and prioritizing him now. So it's kind of like, I would hate to be in Iowa shoes. Again, a good program. Still, maybe there's a chance that he still lands there. Again, it's going to be a minute before, but it definitely reset the deck with him. Or it was just like, I bet Iowa was just watching all this unfolding.
Damn,
man. Damn.
And Bud McCollum was there for pretty much all his games as well.
Yeah. Miami definitely in there, and they've been sneakily kind of lingering as a dark horse for them for a long time as the local. They're obviously Miami, and he's a Florida-based kid, and so they're the local ties there. But I think that they recognize the ascension and realize, okay, we got to make it known that this dude's our guy. So it was more obvious, I think, with Miami and Caden than I think any other kid that I watched throughout the week of like, this is clearly their top priority. Like other guys, other kids had, 2 or 3 coaches at any given time. Sometimes it was 4 deep. Every single game that Caden Daughtry played, it was Jay Lucas and his staff sitting in the same exact seat, 4 deep, making sure like, hey, you're gonna know that we're here. We're going to make our presence felt. So that's definitely a school I'm keeping a close eye on moving forward. Is Miami kind of trying to become a blue blood, and I think that appeal is definitely going to be there as a Florida kid, knowing the cool factor with Jay Lucas and Caden Lewis now being their point guard this upcoming season, and maybe can he step right into that same role the year after. So that's definitely something I'm keeping an eye on. But hey, for my money, I would love for Mark Pope to go throw a bag and just try to do whatever it takes to get that one done, because he is a whole heck of a lot of fun. The other guy who was a whole heck of a lot of fun, Beckham Black. He was my favorite player in the class. Still is going into the event. For my money, I think he's the number 1 player in the country. Just because I think he is he has a size advantage that Caden doesn't have. I think he's a better 2-way player with the same tough shot making, great floor general. Finding teammates, ability to just run the show as the guy. For my money, I think he's the best point guard in high school basketball. I think he's going to be a top draft pick, and I think he's going to be an NBA, all-star at some point. I don't know if I don't want to be hyperbolic and say he's going to be an all-NBA guy or whatever, but he's a really good player. And Kentucky was, again, sitting courtside for many of his games. So what did you like from Beckham Black, who is, again, Arkansas, Duke, every BYU throwing, they're going to throw a bag at him. So what did you think of your viewing experience of one Beckham Black?
Yeah, he's awesome. He definitely is. I mean, I don't think he's the same level scorer as Caden is, and my recency bias is definitely impacting me here. But I'd put Caden over him in terms of the hierarchy of point guards. But Beckham does have the size. He has the size advantage, and that's going to matter kind of projecting onward. It might not be as big of a deal if we're just looking at a 1 year in college, but if we're looking ahead to the NBA, that's going to benefit him a lot long term. He was really good, just a really good player, really good floor general. Like, doesn't make too many mistakes, very calm, steady. It's just maybe not as aggressive as someone like Caden, but probably a little bit smarter with the ball in his hands, could run the offense a little bit better. So I was very impressed with everything we saw from him too. Kentucky's in the mix. Along with those other schools. We'll see how much in the mix they are, I guess, as kind of official visits come out and things like that. But Kentucky was courtside to watch him play, and he has the Anthony. His brother was there for like pretty much the entire time, the entire week. Anthony Black who currently plays for the Magic. You've got the Arkansas connection there. You've got the Musselman connection out in Southern California. So those are other schools that are kind of in the mix too. But he's fun. He really is fun. It's not the electric thrill factor that Caden Daughtry is, but he's probably the steadier. It feels kind of dumb when I say that because Caden Daughtry just scored 30 points every single game on crazy efficiency. But I do feel like Beckham is probably the steadier guy in terms of just being a floor general, running the offense, setting his guys up a little bit better. He's, whereas Caden would kind of maybe lay back a little bit and let other guys work and then really try and take over. Beckham kind of always has the ball in his hands and is really good at making plays for others, setting his guys up. So, I mean, if you're a college and both players hey, we'll commit to you, just got to pick one, you can't go wrong going with either of those guys. Especially if you're just looking at 1 year in college, they're both going to be probably, all conference level players in their freshman seasons, wherever they end up going. So you pick Beckham, I pick Caden. It really doesn't matter, but if you're picking between those two, because they're both awesome.
Other Kentucky targets, commits, there's one. We're going to go to Ryan Hampton next, but the list that I got from my own two eyes that we saw either Mark Pope, Mo Williams, Cody Feger watching at some point or another, Aiden Diggs, Beckham Black, DeMarcus Henry, Louis Uvoh, Caden Daughtry, Paul Osori, Navarro Bowman Jr., Ryan Hampton, Asa Montgomery, Chase Lumpkin, Jackson Davis among 27s. And then once you get to 28, Eric Dampier Jr., Mason Collins, Dylan Betts, Benji
Barrowett.
Okay.
Yeah, I asked him.
God, I love him so much.
He's
Benji the big dancing bear.
I couldn't wait for him to mention his name. He was so much fun. He's one of my favorite players we watched.
Liam
Midicaro.
Big fan of Liam.
Skinny little point guard, really good.
Weird names to pronounce. We're going first name basis. Liam. One Chris Paul II. I'm not sure if you've heard of that name before. And then of course JJ Crawford there. So of that group, Ryan Hampton, we got to just talk about what was a really strong start, what we loved about the beginning of his Peach Jam, and a lot of what we really disliked about the end of his Peach Jam, where once we got to tournament play, just really kind of reverted to all the bad habits and things that we have been trying to get him to take care of and get rid of, that definitely came creeping back in an unfortunate way that saw him combine 4 for 17 shooting in his last 2 games. So not the way he wanted to end his EYBL circuit, but a really strong start. We do have to give credit where it's due. He really was productive to start with, and there's a reason why his Knight Riders team made it to the semifinals to begin with. So your take on Ryan Hampton?
Yeah, like you said, started off really strong. The first 5 games, the regular season games, if you will, of Peach Jam, was just very steady and consistent. Shot the ball well. I think that was the main takeaway. I think his efficiency numbers were probably the best of the whole EYBL summer. Of the five sessions that they had total, I think that was probably the most efficient for him. He shot like 38% from three, something like that. Averaged around 15 points, 5 boards. Like, was just doing what he does best, which is hit tough shots, attack the glass, be like, average out on defense, and get downhill and try and attack the glass. I think I'm looking at his stats now, he had a 7 for 7 free throw game and an 8 for 10 free throw game. So when he's in that mindset, he's really good at being able to get downhill. It is, I remember saying this to you at one point. I was like, Ryan's numbers are really good, but every time I look at the box score, I'm like, oh, he has more than I thought. And I think part of that is just sometimes he can get lost in the crowd a little bit. And I think I know of a reason why. And it's his backcourt running teammate who, I'm not a huge fan of at all. Gabe Nesmith, who just,
that's a hot take, by the way. That's definitely a hot take.
I know. I just don't think he's very efficient at all. But I think, and I'll defend Gabe as well and Ryan in saying that Gabe Nesmith is not a point guard, and he was playing point guard for this team. Essentially, he was the guy. Like, the offense was basically for the Night Riders. It was, all right, Gabe Nesmith, go try and get us a bucket. If you can't, see if Ryan Hampton can get us a bucket. And if you can't, just throw it up on the rim and let Louis Uvo go and grab it, who we're going to talk about soon because he's been awesome.
Be still my heart, Louis Uvo.
Gosh, if there's one player in this entire country I want playing basketball at Kentucky, it's Louis Uvo, and I hope everyone goes watch some highlights on him. But we'll talk about him in a second. So yeah, Ryan, like, it was just a very weird week for him. And then yes, with the 2 tournament games, like especially in that championship game against the semifinal game against Drive Nation, like, I think he only played like 19 minutes of that game. It felt like in the second half he was kind of getting played off the court a little bit. It was rough for everybody. Like, Gabe Nesmith was playing bad. Like, I didn't think that they were a good combo together. Like, I just don't think Gabe Nesmith is good at getting his guys set up, things like that. I think he'll do much better playing next to Tyler Tanner at Vanderbilt next season. He'll probably because I think his shooting numbers were not very good either. Like, I think he shot the ball worse than Ryan did from both 3 and from the field from 2. So, I don't think. But you have, 3 top 25 guys. So I think that's still like the overall talent level was enough to get them there. Just the makeup of the roster was kind of odd. The way it was built around those 3, 4 or 5-star kids in Uvo, Hampton, Nesmith. I know I might be kind of on a little bit of an island with Gabe Nesmith, but he's not as bad as I was making it out to be when I was talking to you when we were watching him, because it was just kind of upsetting me how many times he just iso-balled himself into bad shots. But I don't think
43, 27, 82 splits across all EYBL games. So across 22 Peach Jam.
I think he had more turnovers than assists as well. So it was just
averaged 3 turnovers a game and 2.6 assists. Yes, 65 turnovers compared to 57 assists.
Yeah, but he's not a point guard. Like, he's actually listed, I think, as a small forward on all these high school recruiting websites. So he's not a point guard, but he did most of they had a point guard on the team, but Gabe Nesmith was on the ball pretty much the whole time. So, I could chalk some of it up to that, but it really was just kind of disappointing to see Ryan's game kind of dip when the lights got bright a little bit. Like you said, he was 4 of 17 in those 2 tournament games. From the field, only combined for only 10 points. He had 10 points and 9 rebounds total through those 2 games. So it was disappointing to see how it ended, because it really did feel like he was playing well. He was the first 5 games, he looked like the number 20 recruit in the country or whatever he's listed as, even kind of in like that weird offense or the weird team fit that they had. And then it really just kind of was just not good, in those 2 those 2 tournament games. But like I said, I think a lot of it was just how the weird makeup, but like, I think if he had a real better point guard next to him, things are a little bit better. But he's got things he's got to improve on. Like, he really does. He's just not a good ball handler right now. He's got to clean that up a little bit. He takes a lot of tough shots. He puts his head down a lot getting to the rim. Sometimes it works. Like I said, he went 8 of 10 from the free throw line, 7 of 7 from in another. But then the other games, he went 1 for 1, 2 for 2, 2 of 2, 3 of 4. So like, sometimes those calls, you just aren't going to get those calls. Or you're not going to have the driving lanes. If they pack the paint, you're kind of going to be stuck. But he was just hitting tough shots early, and it just wasn't hitting him as much later on. So, I'll let you talk about the reclass stuff, because there was definitely some weird buzz about that with him in 2026. But I definitely think he needs another year of high school to kind of just fine tune some of those ball handling skills, just round out his game a little bit more before he makes the leap to college. But yeah, it was just it was a weird week for Ryan. I mean, if I had to grade it overall, I'd still give him like a B minus, maybe something like that.
I like that. I like
think
that
it's
grade.
probably fair.
I like it.
But yeah, it was just it would have been nicer if the bad games were the first two and then the next five were the good ones. But instead, it was the inverse of that. So it just kind of looks funky when you're looking at the box scores.
So with the reclass stuff, I'm gonna go more in depth on KS board about this. But yes, it would be the Hamptons' preference to move to 26. But is it Kentucky's preference to have him jump and fill more than anything, fill that last roster spot and then be done? No flexibility, nothing. Like I think that there's a little bit of pushback with that, just in terms of knowing how far away Ryan Hampton is from being a contributor in college, that I don't think it is Kentucky's preference for him to make the jump right now. If there are no other options and everything else falls through, I would bet a lot of money that he'll end up on this roster in 26, 27 at some point. But in the immediate, like I do think that is something that those conversations are happening as we speak. But I think that it's Kentucky's preference to hold off on that and just see what else is out there. I think just for big man depth more than anything. Like I think knowing that past Malachi Moreno, there are a lot of question marks right now with the Kentucky front court. Just in terms of Frank, and that's a 10-minute a game guy. If he can stay healthy for potentially 40 games at 10 minutes a game, that'd be awesome. And then we don't need to worry about it. But I do think that like they were recruiting Caleb Aragu as a 26. He committed to Arkansas and he's reclassing up to 26, but they were recruiting him as a 26 to potentially be that insurance policy just in case something happens with Frank Kepnong. And with Reese Potter, produces, and he is, a solid bench piece to have, but somebody that you're wanting to rely on to really contribute as a, injury insurance for something that happens to Malachi. He rolls his ankle in a game and he's unavailable for a game. Like, you got to have somebody that you can lean on pretty heavily. And I think that's where the concern is right now. So I think if Pope has it his way, it's to find big man depth first, find somebody that he really likes, that he feels can contribute day one. And if not, use Ryan Hampton as a fallback option to fill that last spot. But I don't think that's his preference. So I'll dig deeper into that on KS board and all that. But that's just something I monitor. It's out there. The noise is out there, and it's kind of, he has shut it down, but that doesn't mean anything. These kids shut down reclass rumors one day. In fact, Ryan Hampton told me to my face, I am not reclassifying to 2027. And I had a conversation 5 minutes later that was like, yeah, I'd still keep a close eye on the reclass. So just ignore all of the public statements about reclass stuff and know that if there's reclass buzz, there's usually, if there's smoke, there's usually fire. That it doesn't always work out. There are some kids that, they think hard about a reclass and then they end up not. And there's some kids that don't, it's not even on their radar. Marcus Spears was a good example where it wasn't, anything anybody talked about at all. And then the idea came about and it's like, you know what? Why not take this pretty seriously? We're in position to do it. Screw it. Let's make the jump. So right now is when you will hear more reclass buzz than anything about a ton more guys. And I'd be shocked if there are not a handful more of decisions that, here in the next couple of weeks of kids making the jump. So Hampton belongs in those conversations, but I would not bet my house on it being a done deal, not on a Hampton side, but on Kentucky's side more than anything. So,
well, I want to address this question from Captain Crash, because you and I kind of talked about this as well. I've got it on the screen here. Would it be better for Hampton to develop here or with a high school team? I don't really know. I really don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. Like, I think one thing Ryan needs to do is add more weight. Good way to do that. Get in a college weight room, build yourself up that way. But I also think he needs to play a lot more basketball. I feel like he'd play more basketball in high school at DME Academy. He's funny enough, he's teammates with Troy Faison Jr., who we just talked about as kind of one of the big stock risers. So, if he stays there or if he goes somewhere else next season, be the guy, play a lot more basketball, fine tune your skills a little bit? Like, would it just benefit him more to play more basketball at the high school level, or get into a weight room, a college system, and maybe be an off the bench guy, a guy that kind of comes in periodically? Like, I don't really know the answer to that question, honestly. I think my personal preference for him, and this like is just not right or wrong, but I think it would just be better for him to be in high school for another year. I think that would probably benefit him the most, as opposed to trying to jump up and play college basketball this season. But one of my questions that I had queued up for all the 2027 kids when we were talking to them was, are you a reclass candidate? Is that an option for you? And I'd say over half of them all said that they're eligible to do that. They just haven't really seriously talked about it too much. And you're seeing more and more kids make this jump. There's a big financial incentive to do that if you're eligible to jump up a class and do 2 years in college before you're eligible to go to the NBA, if you're good enough to do that, at least, or even still just getting into college earlier to get the money sooner and kind of go that route. So that's a real factor in all of this. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on Captain Crash's question there, Jack?
I really, for all the same reasons you do, I struggle with it, because I know the value of, I'm also projecting to next season and knowing the value of having Ryan here and getting beat. My biggest concern probably is where he would play high school. I just don't want Ryan to go play for some prep school where he averages 38 points a game, where the competition stinks, that he's not getting better. He has to get better over the course of this next year, or else he will not be a serious contributor. He has the potential and the tools to be a serious contributor next season at Kentucky. But as things stand right now, it's going to be a process. He's going to be a multi-year guy as he's currently playing right now. If he goes to Kentucky now and takes the weight room seriously, and Pope can get his hands on him early and really try to fine tune those, the break the bad habits and get rid of, the tunnel vision and shot selection and erratic decision making and all of the things that we kind of watch him and go, oh, Ryan, come on, man. Like, we clean those things up. Is Pope getting his hands on him right now and kind of molding this piece of clay today versus a year from now, still having to break those bad habits because he wasted a year of high school basketball? That's my biggest concern. I would really, it'd be a shame for him to waste this, whatever this year is, wherever he can find the most bang for his buck with value and development. It's gotta be the top priority with this. So if you can guarantee me that he's going to play a ton of basketball in a tough region or a tough, area of the country where the prep competition is on the Scholastic League or something, where he's playing high level competition every single day, losing games and playing in the mud a little bit and having to work his way out of it, I would love that, and that would be 1000% my preference. But my biggest concern is that they kind of skate, they opt for 27, skate through this year, and then we're kind of where we are at this stage next season. It's kind of been a waste of everybody's time. If that's the case, he needs to reclass. So
yeah, and it's like you said, like, would you rather Mark Pope get his hands on him early and try and break some of those bad habits? But how is it going to be? How it all just comes down to how much is he going to play at Kentucky if he does come?
And will he be okay with not playing in year one too?
Exactly.
That's another thing. Is he going to come here and be comfortable playing 5 minutes a game? Probably not.
I think he'd do well to play next to the creators and Zoom and Alex. I'm sure that would maybe help him a little bit, but those two guys are the guys. Like, those two guys are starting. I'm not saying that Mason Williams and Jerome Morton are better, but they've been there longer already. They're going to know the system a little bit better. Mason Williams's buzz is only continuing to grow with him. So, it is kind of a weird little back and forth of what would you rather prefer? And if you're saying Kentucky would maybe prefer him to hold off a little bit, that kind of gives me a little bit of insight as to how they're thinking about it too, saying maybe the high school route is better. And if you're Kentucky, have a role in that. Say, hey, you're going to this high school, we want you to go here so you can play against this level competition, you can be coached by this guy that we trust. Like, if you're going to invest all this money in this kid, kind of play a role and point him in the direction. I'm sure they're doing a little bit of that if that's if they do elect to stay in 2027. So it is. I don't think there's really a right or wrong answer with that question, honestly. If it just comes down to personal preference and how confident you are, and whoever's going to be able to develop him for the next season. Maybe Mark Pope is just like, I don't care. Let me get my hands on him and I'll have him for 2 years. We'll go through like a red shirt year next season. And then in 27-28, we let him loose and he's our starting 2 guard. And, his ball handling's tightened up. He's gotten bigger, making better decisions. And then he can turn into a guy who could be an all SEC freshman guy. So you can see both paths, pretty clearly as to how they lead to success. It's just, Peach Jam's over now. We've now seen 4 or 5 different 2027 guys reclass within the last week. So you have to think that if it's going to happen, it's going to happen relatively soon, I would think, especially with summer practices already, halfway through it feels like at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll see. I was told that, those decisions are happening right now, so we could get an announcement, some finality with it one way or another, in the coming days. So we'll see. Looking for bigger potential payouts. Use your BetMGM any sport parlay boost token to increase the odds on an eligible parlay and take your wager to the next level. How it works: opt in to the promotion, claim your parlay boost token, apply it to an eligible parlay wager across supported sports. If your boosted parlay wins, you'll receive an enhanced payout. Build it, boost it, BetMGM it. Appreciate our friends at BetMGM. And also, Zen AI is the home of vibecasting, a new way to capture and share conversations. It helps anyone turn a conversation into something worth sharing: a podcast, a reel, or a TikTok with no production skills required. Hit record on your phone, have a real conversation, and Zen AI's AI producer handles the rest. Clean up clips, all of it. That simple. Right now, Zen AI's paying new vibecasters to make their first sportscast about their favorite team go live during the game, or record your takes after. Bring your own co-host or find one in Zen AI's network. Zen AI is currently an invite-only beta, so go head to zen.ai to join the waitlist. Any other? I think Louis Uvuo is probably the other guy that we need to talk about, just in terms of impact, in terms of conversation. How everybody in the gym wanted to talk about Louis Uvuo, and is he the best defender, shot blocker that you've seen since fill in the blank?
Nerlens.
Have we seen a defensive talent this good ever? Things of that nature. It's fun to join those conversations because there's a talent that backs up that level. And it's not about his ability, Zach. It is that he will swat your shot into the third row and then point at you and go and run the other way down the floor, and then catch a lob and bring the rim down. He's a blast. He is just he so embodies fun. Joy playing basketball, and that's what I love about him. He doesn't take life too seriously. He's told the story 1,000 times now that we really kind of struggled to understand what he meant by it at first. Or with his bike broke down, and then some people were walking by and said, "Hey, do you play basketball?" And he was like, "What's basketball?" And he went back home and asked his family, "What is basketball? I need to play basketball. These people told me that I should go play basketball." And then the story. 3
years later, he's only been playing 3 years of basketball.
3 years later, he's now a top 10 recruit, and everybody in the country wants him. So, big fan of Louis Uvuo.
Yeah, the on-court stuff is awesome. The off-court stuff is just as good. He is a bright personality, just a guy who's loving the fact that he's playing basketball, loving the fact that he's on the road doing all this stuff with his friends. Like I said, he came over from Africa, kind of got discovered at an NBA academy in Africa. I remember the story you were saying, the way I interpreted the story, because I was in that little media scrum when we were talking to him. I think his bike broke down, so he went to get it fixed. And when he went to the bike shop, it was the people that were there were like, "Dude, you're 6'10" and you're 13 years old. You should be playing basketball, not riding this, tiny little tricycle or whatever you're riding around these streets with." So I think that was kind of what he was saying. But smiling ear to ear, at one point in the interview, he was like, "I don't know why I'm so happy. I'm just happy to." He was just talking and he's enjoying himself.
We talked about meeting Akeem Olajuwon. That was
he said that was his star moment.
I just met Akeem Olajuwon, one of the best players in the history of basketball. What else matters in this world? It was such an innocent approach that it was so refreshing.
What I will say though is what he told us. He said that he's very familiar with Kamawon Malawach. He went to Duke. Big centers as well. You could see that was the first school he mentioned, but he did mention Kentucky is when he was living in Africa, the two schools that he remembers hearing about were Kentucky and Duke. If you go to those schools, you get to the NBA. He's familiar with Malawatch from the NBA Academy. He's now with the Suns. He's like a number 10 pick. So you can unfortunately see a vision where he goes to Duke and becomes a top 10 pick. We're all gonna hope that doesn't happen. But yeah, man, like the off court stuff's awesome. Like just personality wise, he's great. He's fun to talk to. Really, really happy, really energetic, but all of that translates onto the court as well. Like you're saying, he'll laugh at players. There was one point where they were beating a team. They had the game in hand with a few seconds left. He got knocked to the ground and started twerking on the ground. I was like, I want this kid playing basketball in Lexington so badly, just for the personality of it all and the the viral reels, videos that'll come out from it. I mean, how many times do you think this guy had a two-handed block on the backboard? I mean, at least once a game.
Once a game for sure.
It was crazy. The shot blocking is incredible. Like, so going into this event, I hadn't seen him live. I'd seen him play like when I was doing Ryan Hampton scouting stuff. Like I remember they played against Knight Riders before Ryan Hampton was on that team. I remember being like, who is this kid? Like the kid that's blocking every single shot. Then I think I watched another game from a past session where he was teammates with Hampton, and I was like, oh my gosh, like he's still doing this. Like all he does is just block shots. It's unreal. He runs the floor and blocks shots, grabs rebounds. For every two-handed block he had as well, he had a throw, like a put back dunk off of off just a wild shot, like just inhales rebounds around the rim. Unbelievable shot blocker. For every block he's going to get, he's going to deter or alter a shot or dissuade somebody. Like, you know how Wembanyama, like guys won't go towards Wembanyama, like they'll just go into the lane and just start skirting back out to the perimeter because they see him there. It's a similar feel with Uvlo. Like I said, 6 blocks a game. He had a 10-block game. He was 1 rebound shy of a triple-double. He had a 10, 10, and 9 game, one that we watched in person. I think he had another 8-block game as well. And he's a good free throw shooter too. 75% at Peach Jam from the free throw line. We saw him shoot a handful of threes, but his game is definitely paint. His offensive game is paint only. Not like a good passer.
When he took those threes, I didn't go, ooh. It was like, hey,
it's like,
get your game off, bro.
I think he was like 0 for 3 at Peach Jam, something like that. Unfortunately, he's not like a Mark Pope big where he's not like a passer, not a playmaker, not a guy that you're probably going to run a bunch of, DHOs or things like that with. He wants to like pick and roll, do things like that. But Kentucky was there recruiting him. He's got an offer. They're scouting him, I should say. They were watching all his games, obviously with Ryan there as well. So, Kentucky is still a school that he's hearing from. He said, I forget all the other schools that he listed, but he's got a bunch after him right now. But man, he's just he is so much fun to watch, and he's going to be a lot of fun. Like he kind of had this meteoric rise over the last, since the spring started, where he went from like kind of a lesser known guy to now being a consensus top 10. He was playing with Prolific Prep's B team last season. It was his first year in America, and he was on the B team for Prolific Prep. And now he's like the talk, other than Caden Daughtry, he's probably the talk of Peach Jam with how he was playing on both ends of the floor. And he can defend multiple positions too. Like he can get low in a stance and does pretty well doing that. So he won Defensive Player of the Year for EYBL. They gave out an award for that. He won that right before the semifinal game. They gave him that award. Very well deserved. But he was awesome as well. Like him, we can talk about Benji in a second. I think Louis Uvo and Benji Barrowett were the two guys where I was like, oh, these are just so much fun. These guys are so much fun to watch. Like put aside like long-term projections and talent and all that. Like just in terms of fun, what guys you want to watch play basketball, those two were probably my number 1 and 2 guys. But Uvo, man, he was awesome. He'd be so much fun to play at Kentucky.
Yeah, I'm a massive, massive fan. Yeah, we'll go Benji. Aiden Diggs was solid. DeMarcus Henry, I love kind of his do-it-all approach. He told me, he was like, I'm pretty confident that I'm the best player in the country, so I love his confidence. Paul Asori, who Ryan Hampton is recruiting to Kentucky, I would not get my hopes up if I were you, on fans that are dreaming of that one. And I'll just be honest, like the kid sulks too much for my liking, bad body language. Like there were whispers sitting amongst the coaches of like, this dude's got to cut this stuff out. Like it is totally unlikable sitting here watching him, roll his eyes and have his hands on his hips and, complain, it's exhausting. It really did get exhausting by the end of the week. And he's going to end up at West Virginia. Let's just put that out there. He's going to end up at West Virginia. So I just wouldn't get my hopes up too much. I know Ryan Hampton said he's recruiting. Kentucky staff was there. Mark Pope watched, Mo Williams watched, but that is not one that I know. He said that he's planning. He has an official visit locked in to Kentucky, but I think after the big song and dance, he's going to end up a Mountaineer. Navarro Bowman started out really, really hot, finished ice cold, but I like him. I really do like his game. The son of NFL legend Navarro Bowman. Asa Montgomery, good player. Really enjoyed watching him. That was my first time. And he was an EYCL kid who just kind of exploded onto the scene, and he's ascending as quickly as anybody. He was really fun to watch. Moves really well for his size. Big fan there. Jackson Davis, he hurt his knee, so we didn't get to see a whole lot of Jackson Davis.
Just a minor MCL thing as well with him. It wasn't anything major. But Mo Williams was going to watch one of his games, and then he realized that he had gotten hurt, so he didn't watch him.
Yeah, but he tried. He did try. He did. So but Benji Barrowett, man, what a talent that is. That's a fun one. We're talking headlines and takeaways of who Pope was prioritizing and having several staff members in. Every single game that we saw Benji play, it was Mark Pope and Mo Williams in attendance. So what did you think of the Dancing Bear Benji?
Yeah, that's a great nickname for him. So he's 2028, 6'8". Probably needs to cut down some weight a little bit, but really moves well for the body that he's in, like runs up and down the floor, wants to get his teammates involved. Great rebounder, relentless rebounder. I think he averaged like 14 rebounds a game for his 16 on the 16U stage, 18 points or something like that. A bunch of blocks, like good defender, or at least a good rim protector. I'm interested to see how his long-term defensive upside translates, because he does, he needs to get a little bit more agile and athletic, but just in terms of pure like basketball skill, he has so much of it. He's just fun to watch. Like he can go in the post. He can stretch himself outside a little bit. He really does a little bit of everything on offense. He's a really fun player to watch. I'm trying to think of like a comparison, but it's difficult, really, honestly, like, because he's just kind of like he's a little undersized at 6'8". I think is like one thing to note with him. Like if he was 6'10", I think he'd be in a different conversation, but I think he's still probably going to be a top 10 kid in the 28 class. Like you said, Kentucky was there regularly watching him. He's one of 3 guys in the 28 class with public announced offers, maybe 4 from the 28 class. Not many though. So, but it's pretty clear that Benji's a guy that they're really on. He was a lot of fun. We watched more of Uvo, but I think I watched 3 of Barrewett's games while we were at Peach Jam, just because it was fun. Like I knew that I was going to have a good time watching him. He doesn't have the ball. He doesn't have to have the ball in his hands to like be productive as well. So he was a lot of fun to watch, and he definitely feels like he's a priority target for Kentucky. Another guy that Mo Williams is recruiting hard, and mentioned Mo Williams and talked about him and how he's helping him. All these kids point to Mo Williams being a high school McDonald's All-American and then translating it all to the NBA, and they're like, that's exactly what I want to do. So if I'm like that stuff really does appeal to me. Benji is obviously not a point guard, but still that's the path he wants to go on. So another guy that Mo Williams is really targeting as well. And one quick thing on Jackson Davis, he did say that he was pretty open about the fact that he thinks he's like in the lower pecking order of point guards for Kentucky. He basically said that he feels like he's probably one of their backup options below the main 4 or 5 that are there. Like it wasn't those exact words, but that was pretty much what he was saying. Is like, I know they're recruiting other point guards type thing. So I'm just kind of waiting my turn to see if they really ramp things up with me. So that's kind of a little bit of the Jackson Davis info with him. He's like ranked like in the 40s or something like that. He's a good player. We didn't get to watch him because he played one game and I think he sat out the rest, and we weren't there for that game. So we didn't actually get to watch him play, but that was just a little kind of a nugget on him with Mo Williams. So he's on the board for point guard for Kentucky, but maybe a little bit lower. Yeah.
Not bad to have as a backup option,
if he's good.
Kind of like what we talked about at the start of the show. When you have a handful of guys that you're in strong standing for, if you don't value, a kid at $4 million, but you think, hey, we could get this other top 40 kid, I think Jackson will end up finishing top 40, top 35-ish. If we can get him at $500,000 or something, just in terms of NIL comparison, like, I would rather go get that guy and then push all your money in on the next Milan Momcilovic, whatever the superstar is that you want to, invest heavily in. Like I'm totally fine, because the point guards are so good in this class that if you can find better bang for your buck a little bit further down, don't settle for, the 80th best player in the country just because that's all you can get. But like, if you choose a Navarro Bowman for value over a, Beckham Black, I totally trust your judgment call on that. So a lot to like there. Speaking of point guards, Liam Mitakaro, I love him so much. I was a big fan. A lot of he's Canadian. You play kid.
Mm-hmm.
We saw one Dwayne Washington talking about a blast from the past as a Shaden Sharp mentor, and got in the middle of all that stuff. So that was fun. He is continues to be the team director, I believe, or owner or whatever he is of that You Play Canada team. But so a Canadian point guard ranked, kind of in the 4-star range. We've heard this story, and he plays in a we'll never see another Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but plays in that same pace over, pace and finesse over
guy. Yes,
athleticism. I'm just going to try to beat you in a foot race. Definitely comfortable getting to his spots and letting the game come to him. He'll turn the ball over, and he's young and he's growing, but there's so much to like about how he operates and the control that he plays with. So he was one of my favorites all around watching him play this week, that I understand why he was an early priority for Mark Pope, and one of 4 guys, I think, now holding 28 offers.
Yeah, he's just kind of like a taller, skinny point guard. Oh my goodness, I hope y'all can't hear my dog barking.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. She'll be okay. Liam, he's a taller point guard, like I was saying. The shooting numbers weren't, they didn't stand off the page or anything like that. I think he had more turnovers than assists as well, but there is a lot to like. The deceleration stuff is what, when you're talking about pace of play and like the Shai Gilgeous-Alexander comparisons, like from what I remember seeing, he at least a couple of times a game, he would jet his way to the rim, and then right at the last second, he would stop on that left foot and then just like float for a second and let guys go past him, and then he would just kind of politely lay it into the basket. So really fun to watch him do that. And Mark Pope, right before he left to go to 3SSB, on his way out the door, he made sure to come in and watch Liam play for a couple quarters.
That was notable.
That was notable before he went out. So, and Kentucky's in the mix. I remember talking to him that's the school that's on him as well. Like you said, they've got the offer, so they're really trying to look at him pretty hard. But I liked what we saw from him. He's still, like you said,
it was his dream offer as well.
Yeah. Yeah, we love that word "dream" with associated
dream
with Kentucky,
offer,
right?
baby.
It always ends out well. But yeah, he was a fun player. There's definitely some stuff he needs to work on, but he's a 28, so he's got time to work on it. He put up decent numbers, pretty good numbers, honestly, for the 16U team for UPlay. So I like him. There's just some stuff that needs to continue to grow, and he's skinny. He's really skinny. He's got to add some weight as well. But he's a really fun player to watch, because he will give you some highlights that aren't traditional, like dunks and blocks and stuff like that. Like he'll use his fancy footwork to try and make some fun plays.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Let's transition. Any final takeaways from Peach Jam that you want to get off your chest? JJ Crawford was awesome. He finished first team all EYBL, and he was terrific. We got the news of, talking to Jamal face to face for the very first time since all the chaos of all that, and just kind of getting him to tell his side of the story. I thought was pretty cool, and I appreciate him doing that. That he will not be taking the Kentucky job, at least for this cycle, or any coaching job at this cycle. Just, this time in his life is not the right one for him to make the jump. So he was pretty transparent about all of it, and said that, he was super interested in Kentucky, loves Mark Pope, loves the Kentucky program, loves being associated with the Kentucky program, but now is just not the time in his own career to make that move, which that had been the rumblings, that had been kind of the speculation up to, from late spring to early summer, that once we kind of got past a certain point, it was like, yeah, that's probably not going to happen. But Peach Jam being kind of the final bookend of it, knowing that he wouldn't have been able to make the move to Kentucky until, finishing up his AAU duties anyway. So to get that officially done and just kind of put an end to all of that. I appreciated that he was willing to do that, and but his son's very, very good at basketball.
Yeah, his son's fun to watch. He definitely like his build is just like Jamal, like similar guys that they're just like taller, skinnier, good ball handlers. JJ's big thing is he's a really good shooter. I think he shot the ball really well from three. He did play up a year. Like he was on the 16U, wasn't he? Or was he on 15? Yeah, he was on 16U. So he was playing up a year. And he was arguably their best player on the Rotary team from the Northwest. But yeah, I don't have too much to say on JJ. I only watched him play the one time, but you can tell right away why he's going to be one of the top few prospects in 2029. He's got the bloodlines. He's got the size. He's played on Team USA. He's played a bunch of basketball. He's only going to continue to get better and better. So he's going to be a fun player to watch. Another guy that Mo Williams is recruiting because who else, and it helps that, Mo and Jamal are semi-familiar with each other from both being in the NBA for so long. So, there's a little bit of a connection there as well. And he's we're going to be talking about him a lot over the next couple of years, JJ Crawford, because he's very fun to watch.
16.5 points per game on 52-54 on 6 attempts a game, 54 and 60 splits. So shot like crap at the line, but he's a 2029. I mean, what he's got so much room to improve and so much time to get there. He's going to be awesome. Yeah. He's going to be incredible. All right, transitioning away from Peach Jam, we'll wrap up the show with La Familia, but not really La Familia because, last night was what it was, and we're excited for Wednesday and hope they win, but we know it's just kind of a cluster, and it is kind of is what it is at this point. When you have former players beefing on Twitter about whether or not they're going to show up and be a part of it, at this point, it just kind of is what it is. But we did get a head-to-head battle last week at the Joe Kraft Center between Kentucky and La Familia. To just, it's a measuring stick for the very first time of the Kentucky Wildcats going up against somebody for the very first time that's not themselves. So you learn something, you take it all with a grain of salt. You understand that it is just, it's going to be flawed. It's going to be ugly basketball. It's probably not, not going to be the major takeaways, but you can take some things away from it. Kentucky beat La Familia. God, I hope so.
Thank goodness.
Would have been a really bad thing if they didn't. 31-19 win for the Cats. My understanding, they did some full court 5-on-5 stuff, some half court stuff, and really, really had to navigate through some injury issues for Kentucky. My understanding at this point that Cam Williams out for the summer, Frank Kepnang out for the summer, Trent Noah at this point very likely out for the summer as well. He tweaked his hamstring, as Mark Pope said, so he was not a participant as well. So Trent's out. And then Justin McBride. He's not in the gym. I heard on my end that he was sick, reported that on KS Board, and then his dad had to go on Facebook and acknowledge and be like,
of all places,
I've never in a million years thought that I would have to answer to where my son was in the middle of summer practice, but he's sick. He has the flu. Everything is fine. Please leave us alone. So those 4 absences, man, what can you do when you have 4 significant absences to that extent, and knowing that at least without, McBride will be back soon, but the other 3, they're going to miss the rest of the summer. That sucks. It hurts the development, all that stuff. But the positive takeaways of the scrimmage, Alex Wilkins was very good, productive. I think more of it just, trying to find comfort in the scheme and the pace of play and trying to play with another ball dominant guard like Zoom Diallo. That's been an adjustment, but they're working through it, and you're starting to see some of those flashes of that's what it's supposed to look like. That I'm really been impressed with what I've heard, but also heard that Usman Njai, after having, as we talked about on the last episode, he had his best week as a Kentucky Wildcat then, and then followed it up by being, the best player on the floor in that La Familia scrimmage. So anything else that you heard or anything that we've reported on that stood out to you outside of just the obvious that the depth was what it was in that event, and kind of led to you had to change up the format a little bit?
I mean, I'll be honest, it's kind of hard for me to solidly take anything away from that with what La Familia is, because La Familia, by the way, could not play with their 4 non-UK guys. So they basically had, they have 5 players, I guess, at that point that they could actually scrimmage with.
Yeah.
It probably was just 5, wasn't it? I'm trying to think on the fly here. I think 5 or 6, but barely had a team to roster out there. And then UK's missing all those guys. So, you just what I like to just hear is that, Zoom and Alex were kind of coming along. They're playing fine. The Njai stuff is awesome. I would have liked to have heard a little bit more about Malachi and Milan maybe being dudes out there. But then, 2 days later, Mark Pope posts this video of Milan Momcilovic hitting the craziest threes you've ever seen in practice, saying he had a great morning. I think that was Friday morning he posted that. And then like some good Malachi clips as well. So I think those were maybe connected a little bit. Like, the intel comes out that Malachi and Milan maybe didn't play too well in that scrimmage. And then Mark Pope 2 days later is posting all these videos of them playing well. So, but I'm still not worried about those two in the middle of July at all. And then, when Milan is hitting all of those shots in practice, you're like, okay, that's why, not to be worried about him. Cause one day he can just wake up and turn into the best 3-point shooter in college basketball. So, it is hard. Like I said, it's hard to kind of take away any firm, real, thoughts on what actually, if it's going to project anywhere long-term, just because of how the roster situations were. But, it is nice to hear that Njai is coming along, because coming into this, with the whole roster, once it was kind of solidified, it was like, all right, who's going to be the 4? Is it going to be McBride? Is it going to be Njai? Do you go with the experience of McBride as a college guy? Or do you kind of go with the raw athletic talent that is Njai, kind of just let him play through the lumps? And, Njai's kind of making his mark now. McBride's out with the stomach flu. Let's hope it's not the Taco Bell sickness that's going around. Let's hope that it's
the Baja Blast, we should call it.
Ooh. That's almost that's really good, actually. A little too disgusting, but yes, that one's good. And then Njai's kind of really taking advantage of that. So you like to see him taking advantage of the opportunity that's coming his way, kind of showing himself a little bit. But we've seen this La Familia team. They don't exactly have front court stars right now. Willie Cauley-Stein is actively playing on one ankle, and couldn't do anything against a OMG Jack. You've offended Holly with your joke there.
Sorry, Holly.
But yeah, so it's just fun that they did it, and it's I'm sure it was good. It was a good lesson for the coaches to be like, okay, we got a better idea now. Like let's go from there, and let's try and tweak things, whatever we saw against La Familia. Because even though they're still kind of older guys, they're still pros. These are guys that have played a lot of basketball for a long time, and they know what they're doing. So to still come out with an easy win, and make it as a learning experience is definitely that's probably the best part about it, as opposed to what actually happened on the floor, is just the fact that they got a chance to play somebody else.
Yeah, I love it. And again, if it became funny reporting facts on, like, Milan Momcilovic did not make a shot in the La Familia scrimmage. Again, it was one single 20-minute live period and an Elam ending, where there are a lot of days that guys don't make a shot. It was a factual. Milan Momcilovic didn't make a shot, and all of the takeaways are, all the whispers and rumors and all that stuff after the fact are, Momcilovic stinks, and how, of course Mark Pope gets the best shooter in the world and turns him into a garbage shooter. It's like, no, guys, it's just reporting. Like, it's just. I reported good, I reported bad. I've reported when Ousmane Njai hasn't played well, and I'm reporting when he's playing well. Like, days are days. You stack days. There are good days, there are bad days. It's summer. It's 8 weeks of practice. If we do a lot of reporting, and we are, and I'm proud of all of it, you're going to have some good and bad and ugly. Every player on the team has had really, really good days up to this point and really, really bad days. So we're just you're picking and choosing the days that I'm reporting on, and using it for big picture takeaways. And you just take everything with little milestones as we inch closer to the season. So it was funny for the returns on that to be, oh, Milan stinks. I can't believe, he can't even score against a bunch of old guys. You can't make a shot against a bunch of old guys. And then Friday, I'm told, has the best day he's ever had in Lexington, shoots the absolute piss out of the basketball. And then Mark Pope posts the videos of it, and then they go, "Oh, Jack, you dumbass. I thought this guy couldn't make a shot." And it's like, he did today. Good. Yeah. See? That's how reporting works. It's a day by day thing.
He had that one like fadeaway three from the top of the key. I was like, oh
so
my
sick.
goodness. Yeah.
And I, while we're talking about that Friday that he was awesome, it wasn't even the shots that he was making. Apparently, it was like he was on such a heater that he had so much gravity that it just totally discombobulated everything else defensively, where it was just like panic to try to shut this guy down, that it also led to other guys having awesome days as well. So it like that was the best case scenario why you spend so much money on Milan Momcilovic. It's because days like Friday, where when he becomes a human piss missile, it's going to set up everybody else to be really, really good. So if you spent a single minute worrying about Milan Momcilovic and how good of a shooter he's going to be at Kentucky, he's the best shooter in college basketball. Just like Kobe Brea, when he got here, he missed a ton of shots as he was trying to find his rhythm and get his groove. And guess what? He ended up being an awesome 3-point shooter. That's how it works. So that was a little bit funny. And we were right in the middle of all the Peach Jam stuff I wasn't even able to deal with. I was just like, whatever. We'll address that at another time. But now that we have a chance, it did make me giggle a little bit, because yes, Milan did end up, after not making a shot on Wednesday, was the best player in the gym by a mile on Friday. So it is what it is.
It happens.
Expectations for Wednesday, La Familia. Does 20 add anybody else? Do we get any reinforcements to come in and try to save the day? Because what we saw at Freedom Hall on Wednesday stunk.
Yeah, man, they better hope that there's another big 3 game on Wednesday, or because if Montrezl Harrell is playing, they need to either have another big 3 game so he can go play, or they got to find Oscar Tshiebwe and pull him in from Jimmy's card shop and just say, dude, we have to have you. Like, or Marcus Lee could just show up, he's on the roster.
Anybody. Is there any chance Archie Goodwin shows up now after being in a very public beef with the Harrisons?
Yeah, because Aaron Harrison was calling him out. It was definitely directed at Archie. Archie responded at like 1 a.m. or something like that. I didn't see that tweet until the next morning, saying, you don't know what's going on in my life. And that is, I mean, we don't know, but it's on the surface. What we know is you committed to play for this team. We all knew you weren't going to be there for Saturday for a scheduling conflict, a wedding, or whatever it was. You were listed as active, as of Sunday night, and then Monday morning comes around, you're just not playing anymore. Like, what's going on? Like, come on, you can. We don't have to know, and I guess maybe we never will know. But it just like when you lay it out like that, it does seem kind of lame. But there could be a whole situation behind the scenes that's going on. After the game though, yesterday, John Hood, or no, it was 20. It said on the broadcast, like, we got 6 guys waiting to come play. Like, I got to get them here. It's like, well, buddy, you better do whatever you can to get them here, because if you don't get any more bodies, like, you're kind of just going to be toast on Wednesday, because Montrezl Harrell had 35 points on 14 of 16 shooting. You just couldn't. They were trying to double and triple team as the game went along, and it just wasn't happening. And the league got to like 25 points at one point. Like, it really was, after the first quarter, it was kind of just, embarrassing. It really was just kind of tough to watch, especially in that fourth
it was just
quarter.
all right. Well, like, let's just fast forward 3 quarters.
Yeah,
he
do this like.
You said it perfectly, I think, on KS Board, I think it was KS Board. You were just like, it concerns me that Montrez has realized that he's the best player on the floor. And it was like, that's definitely how it felt in real time, where it was just like, hey, these guys were all washed and I can beat the hell out of them. I just scored 42 points 24 hours ago. Let's just go do it again. And he did. And it's like, damn it.
Well, and he's the NBA 6 Man of the Year 6 years ago. Like, let's not act like, he's some washed up guy. Like, I know 6 years is a long time ago, but it's not like he's 45 years old. Like, Montrez is still a really, really good basketball player. You were in that post-game press conference. He was basically just saying, like, this is my stuff, man. Like, I've been playing basketball for 25 years. I'm smart. I know what to do. Like, give me the ball. And I think at one point he was even like,
They finally gave me the ball.
To give me the ball. I'm like, his coach was sitting 2 seats down. He's like, yeah, they finally gave me the ball and we beat the hell out of him. Like, shocker, right? Like, that worked. I'm one of the 2, probably the best player in this entire tournament. And once I got the ball, I started dominating against a team that has no front court at all. Because, like we said, Willie Cauley-Stein did hurt himself in the last game. And I think that's when the Ville, because we didn't watch all of that game. We were Peach Jam. But I think that's when the Ville made their comeback, was when Willie got hurt. And then, in the third quarter, they show a video of Willie with ice on his ankle. And you're like, oh my gosh, like, this is kind of all deteriorating and falling apart in real time. It's hard to really just kind of blame 20, because, like, Quade Green, Archie Goodwin, Marcus Lee, that's 3 guys that were on your roster. and we're going to play here
Kirk
and
Risa,
committed to play for
prison.
That's a whole other thing. Like, yeah, if you're 20, how are you? Like, you can't. The FBI is not going to tip you off when you make the announcement that, hey, by the way, we're probably going to arrest this guy in a couple of days. You might not want to sign him to your roster. So, like, I don't fault 20 for building this roster at all. Like, he did what he had. Like, you've got the summer league going on too. Like, boy, it sure would be nice to go grab like a Lance Ware or something right now, like maybe the summer league's over now. Lance Ware was playing for the Knicks. Maybe that's something they're looking at, is like, some of those guys. So like they have to add more bodies, because if they go in there again with the same roster and with an injured Willie Cauley-Stein, they're going to get run off the floor again on Wednesday. So yeah, they gotta find some more. They just need more bodies at this point. They just need guys out there that they can throw at Montrez. Otherwise, it's just going to be, it could be a very bad watch come Wednesday night in Memorial.
Yeah, King Joshua asks about Oscar. Man, they tried so hard. They were so close. Like, so backstory on this. He's getting married on Saturday. Fiance has never seen him play basketball competitively ever. Like, their love came entirely organically outside of basketball. Like, some of it was religious. Like, it was an individual relationship that she had no context behind his dominance in Kentucky basketball. So they got to town last week for their wedding, and family and friends are going to be coming in and all that. So he's staying in Lexington this point forward. And that was the draw. Was, buddy, your fiance has never seen you go for 30 and 30 in a game. Go show your lady what a real man looks like playing basketball. Like, go dominate and destroy the competition. Look at the fan base. Just, you snap your finger and there's a line out the door signing pictures and signing autographs and taking pictures. Like, go, it's a little preview to what's to come of, this is what you're marrying, reminiscing about the good old days and what made him such a legend in Kentucky. So that was the draw, and he came so close. Like, he was interested. Before, it was kind of a hard no, because he was, still pursuing NBA contracts and like wanted to try that, see that through. But then once some of the, I think
he can't get a two-way anymore either. So that's like a big deal.
Once the roster issues kind of came up with La Familia, 20 kind of came back at him and was just like, buddy, we really need you. And with your fiance in town, let's just do it just one time. Just give us, let's win this series, and then you don't have to play again. Like, to be respectful, like, I don't think the fans actually care about whether La Familia wins the whole tournament or not. They just want to win this series against the former Cards. So just win the series, and at minimum, like, win this series, and it allows other former Cats to figure out their schedules and get in town to replace Oscar. Like, just give us a minute to survive in advance. So that was the draw. Agent ended up nixing it at the very end, and so there was.
I get it.
Like, a window of getting him here on Saturday and playing. That's why he was in the building, because he was thinking, he was interested. But yeah, agent shut it down, unfortunately. But
yeah, I understand, because, like I said, like, he can't get two-ways anymore. He's been in the league too long. There's a 3-year limit on getting two-way contracts, so he'd have to get a full roster spot. And those are just so valuable right now in the NBA, especially with this whole weird second apron thing. Like, teams are just very wary, right? It's not like Oscar would command a big contract or anything, but if he wants to, he's going to have to get a real roster spot, a real contract. So there's probably more risks playing for La Familia than there is any sort of reward, because even if you go and win the whole thing, like, it's a $2 million payout that gets spread out across, 15 people, essentially. Like, how much? It's not a financial incentive for him, at least from that standpoint. So I understand why he wouldn't. The draw would be to be a king again in Lexington. Like, that would be the draw. Is like, do you want to be a god for a couple days again? Like, do you want to kind of reminisce and feel that player of the year season run you had? Like, that's exactly what's going to happen. And if it got announced in 5 minutes that Oscar is playing on Wednesday, I guarantee you Memorial would sell out. It would be packed to the brim. So I'm sure TBT would love to see that. But yeah, Oscar's, it just doesn't make too much sense for him from a professional standpoint to actually go in and do that. So I get it, but I mean, they need somebody. They need another body. So I mean, I would be shocked actually if they don't add another big man between now and Wednesday night. Because if they don't, like I said, it's just going to be.
Yeah, you're signing up for a
won't
loss
win.
if you don't add anybody.
Yeah.
Like you got to find somebody. Like I'd take Lance Ware just in terms
That's
of
what I'm saying.
beat the hell out of somebody. Like just go start a fight. I'm cool with a fight at this point. Like we like get the. I think in terms of just where both teams are physically right now, like the Louisville side has the obvious advantage because we're just so shorthanded. Like we got to a point where we just ran out of gas. But if you can flip the game upside down emotionally and get, add some the game flipped when at Freedom
Fans
Hall
love
when
Lance
when the fans got into it. So
Yeah.
if we get the other side of it where we can flip the thing, flip emotions in that building and get fans on their feet and trying to take the game over, like there's the window. I don't think you can win just a straight up heavyweight contest. Like you're going to have to find little avenues to win, and I think that would be the way to do it. Just get some emotions, get some passion, get the fans fired up, and get the rivalry side of things invigorated a little bit. So add somebody, please. Get Lance Ware, get somebody in the summer league here.
I'm trying to look. I'm looking at some of the cats that were playing. Like, you got Jacob Toppin. He could be a potential option.
Anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think he can get a two-way deal either. I think he's beyond that threshold. So he's kind of in that same boat. He's not like Oscar's higher on the pecking order of getting a final roster spot. Andrew Carr, another potential guy that could be out there. He could still get a two-way. So we'll see if he's going to try and work for that. But I mean, there really maybe aren't as many options as you think when I'm kind of looking at like guys that are actually out there. Like a lot of them are already kind of on the roster or are playing in the NBA. Like a real fun one would be like Nick Richards, who's still unsigned in the NBA, but he's a guy that is probably going to be a backup center on some NBA team will get a real contract. So you probably aren't looking at that idea. Like your options are just kind of limited. So I would love to know what 20's list of 6 guys are that he has like potentially coming in. Is half of them the guys that are already on the roster that just haven't showed up? Probably. So who are those other few guys? I mean, hey, like Devin Askew's floating out there. Do you want to go bring Devin Askew in to
Devin Askew playing? Yeah, he
played for the Suns with Kobe in the summer league. Yeah,
so what a blast from the past that would be.
So we'll see how they fill out that roster, but
we got 24 hours to figure that out. Get somebody in here, 20. Let's make it happen. We got a game. We got a win to root on. We're gonna make it happen. Any final thoughts before we get out of here? Because we have run way long. But
yeah. I'm trying to think if there's any other like Peach Jam takeaways, any like non-basketball stuff from Peach Jam that you remember. I remember there being these massive long lines for people to buy merch that started at 9 a.m. and people were literally waiting in this line for 4 hours inside the basketball gym to go get like these custom made shoes that Nike was giving out. That was kind of odd. I remember seeing, but was there any like off-court stuff that stood out to you? We had some good food down there when we finally started to find some hole in the wall places. We had some good wings on our last night there.
Like a Texas Roadhouse. So it was a whole
yeah, we went to Texas Roadhouse on the first night. I was talked into that one. That was not my preferred spot.
Hey,
but it was.
If you don't have a love for Texas Roadhouse, that's on you, buddy. Like that, we love the Roadhouse.
It was fine, it was good. But any off court stuff that you remember, like the non basketball stuff that stood out? I feel like we were basically in the gym all day long, so I don't know if there was too much to remember from that, but.
We had an old guy come up to us and break Jordan Page's commitment to IMG Academy. Like
that's right. He made some Baja Blast jokes too. Yes, he made some poop jokes. Gross. I remember it's kind of gross.
That was kind of gross.
Hey, shout out to Wildcat Keeper. Thank you. We appreciate that, my guy.
Yeah,
my girl.
Appreciate your Wildcat Keeper. Nothing, nothing really to we saw Jeff Goodman. We saw all of the other kind of bigger media folk. Seth Greenberg was there, and he was complaining a lot to people from what I heard.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. I'm really glad we were able to do it. I needed a break. I needed a little regroup. I don't think the best way of regrouping was at TVT last night, to be totally honest. Like, there was a moment leading up to it that I was like, I don't know if this is what I need in my life right now. And it ended up being true. It was the right call. I should have listened to my gut, but I
think I might have gotten some sort of, I was telling you, I think I got some sort of sickness either at Peach Jam or at TBT yesterday. So somebody might have infected me. Hopefully I wake up tomorrow feeling a little bit better, but yeah,
you better rally, because we got a flight on Friday, and we are
some fun stuff.
We're going to get after it this weekend. So
yeah, bachelor
trip this weekend. So looking forward to that. All right, let's get out of here. Jack Pilgrim at Jack Pilgrim KSR. Go subscribe to KSR Plus. All the intel. We're going to put out some stuff that we've heard over the course of the week at Peach Jam and all that on over there. So make sure you go get the latest intel at KS Board. Make sure you subscribe right here in the KSR YouTube channel. Like, comment, everybody that commented it here. We appreciate them, but make sure you subscribe. And Zachary, where can fans find your work?
Find me on Twitter at Zach Gagan. No, it's Z Gagan KSR. That's wrong there. It's Z Gagan KSR, or just on Kentucky Sports Radio. I do the Zoom Action podcast with Brandon Ramsey. We'll do that sometime soon, where we probably break down some of the Peach Jam prospects that might come next week. But yeah, like, comment, subscribe to all the stuff that helps our friend Stephen Peak. And yeah, so I appreciate you having me on, Jack.
All right, we'll see you next time. Go Cats.